Today I want to talk about self-acceptance and how I discovered that through my voice, quite literally and also metaphysically and metaphorically. For the longest time I was probably my biggest critic. I was so unkind in the things that I would say to myself, and very often they were unconscious. I would beat myself up if I wasn't good at something, if I made an embarrassment of myself. I would tell myself, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And I only really started to plug into this when I started to learn how to sing. And it's interesting because I used to sing as a kid. I have this recollection of singing on stage in my school. I think as the lead performer, but my mum doesn't remember. Maybe it's a dream I've conjured up. But somewhere along the way, I stopped. And I would just sing to myself. And then a couple of years ago, I noticed this tightness I had in my throat that would arise in meetings at work, but also around certain people, generally straight men who I felt intimidated around. There was definitely a connection there. And I wanted to explore it. And I was also curious about my voice. And I looked up vocal coaches in Melbourne when I was living there. I was looking for an hour or so, and nothing was really resonating with me until I found this one website. And it just had this spirituality entwined within the messaging, and I was so curious about it. I was like, okay, this is it. I need to learn more. So I went along to my first lesson, and I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. But I was guided in such a beautiful way through meditation as a way of accessing my voice. It's something I'd never really thought of pairing, bearing in mind that I'd been meditating for years at that point. And we started off just making noises, working through the tones. And I realized how much I was criticizing myself. I couldn't stop doing it. If I was to sing a note and it was off, I would just be like, oh, that was so bad. And then it's the second that I criticized it, I was off key. I couldn't get back onto it. I was in my head. And it really was a process of months and months and months, maybe a whole year of working through that self-criticism. I would practice a song and maybe I'd get it right one time, and then I'd be really excited and have all this expectation to do it again, and I'd do it wrong and I'd beat myself up. Just complete lack of consistency. And really what was going on is I had a level of expectation, and I was forcing something. I was trying to sing. And when you try and when you force something, you're really going against nature. Because what you're doing is you're creating tension. You're creating resistance to what is. And that exists in the body as tightness, which actually limits the sound. So whatever it is that wants to come out is affected by that. So over 2 years of going to singing lessons, I had some milestones that were pretty powerful for me. I remember the first time that I sang on stage in front of a group of people, a group of her students. I was so nervous. But it was such a peaceful setting. It was so vulnerable. Everyone was there. They were all learning. And I recognized the fact that we're all children. I saw that because there were children on stage, and I saw how petrified they were. There were kids that didn't want to do it. There were kids that were brave enough to get in front of people. There were kids that, quite frankly, couldn't sing but did it anyway. And it was beautiful. It didn't matter whether or not they were hitting the right notes, just the fact that they were sharing was so precious. And so I felt empowered. So I get up on stage and I'm nervous and I look out. But I just felt this wholeness, this rightness in that moment of being on stage, of having people's attention. I wasn't as scared as I thought I would be. And I felt myself in the song, really in it. And then I felt myself lose it. And I made mistakes. But you know what? I laughed it off. I just had joy in me. And it was not a perfect rendition. But at the end, everyone wrote feedback for each artist, and it was so touching. People said that when I let go, they could feel it. They could feel that spaciousness in my voice. It's a really fascinating concept. Like, what is it that the voice carries beyond the words? There is something truly fundamental about vibration. The way that it moves us, the way that we're all made of vibrating atoms, of waves. So with your own voice, suddenly from the outside, you can affect someone on the inside. You can evoke an emotion in someone. You can completely change their state. Enthusiasm can just like rise up through you and out of you. Look at the best orators out there. Look how they are able to channel their emotion, to share it with a crowd, and the entire audience vibrates with it. Love him or hate him, Donald Trump is an expert at it. Barack Obama was an expert at it. We all have the opportunity to explore our voice because it's our greatest self-expression. It holds so many gifts. It's so precious. It's so unique to you. And it's so mysterious. What is it really? What is the voice? Where is this coming from right now as I speak to you? I haven't got a script. I haven't planned this. I'm as much in this present moment as you are. And I'm experiencing it with wonder. I'm loving what I'm hearing. And that came from these lessons. Learning to love what I'm hearing. How often do we do that? How often do we receive what comes out of us with love? For me, I used to receive with judgment. Ooh, I was a big critic. And I'm not saying I'm not like that. I'm not perfect. I still have a lot of conditioning to undo. But those voices that we hear that tell us that we're wrong, they're not us. They're not our pure essence. They're not the inner child that really is inside of us. That being, where has it gone? We were once a child, we were once an infant. Almost like a tree, in the way that sort of rings grow around it. It's kind of how we grow. It's still there at the core. It's still part of us. That playfulness, that excitement, that enthusiasm, I feel that so connected deeply to my inner child. And it's as if I have a relationship with him now. I just want to welcome him in and be proud of him, because I am. And exploring the voice, exploring this thread of curiosity has taken me in so many interesting places. I never would have guessed. But after a year or so of practicing to sing, I got the opportunity to use my voice at work. See, I was a product manager. I was creating a hypnotherapy app. And we needed to test some scripts. And I told people that I'd been doing singing lessons. And they said, why don't you give it a go? So I did. I recorded some scripts. And it turned out that people loved it. People could feel my warmth, my connection, because I genuinely cared about the content. I'd written those scripts. I genuinely wanted the person listening to it to feel loved, to feel warmth, to feel cared for, because they hadn't felt that. These are smokers who smoke not because they're bad people, not because they're addicts, but because they're looking to regulate themselves. because they're looking for belonging and connection, because that was the only tool that they discovered very often in their teenage years that soothed them. And in the voice, you can soothe. So I recorded those scripts, and in that process, I learned even more. I worked with an audio producer, and I listened back to my recordings. I had a feedback loop. Oh, okay. When I'm grounded, when I'm present, people can hear that. You can notice the difference. If I start with a smile, with warmth, if I imagine that I'm speaking to you right now, you can feel that. Because really, right now in this setup, there's a microphone, there's a light, there's an iPhone. I'm staring at a green dot. And yet I'm also not. I am deeply connected to you right now. And that is true. I believe that. I believe that everything that is created vibrates outwards almost, well, probably for eternity. It's true of our voice. It's true of our thoughts. Everything has an energetic component to it. It's why it's so important to watch your thoughts, to watch what you're saying. You can see that ripple effect take place. Let's say you're having a perfectly neutral day. Isn't that lucky to have a neutral day? Nothing's upset you. And then your friend comes up to you and he says, I've had the worst day. This has happened to me. Someone cut me off in traffic. I feel miserable. I feel depressed. Maybe you try and help them, but there's nothing you can say to take them out of that state. And in fact, that energy, what they've said to you, the things that have hurt them, it affects you. You walk away from that. Your state is altered. You can't help but feel sad and depressed as well. Maybe you feel really sorry for this person. And then you take that and you pass that on to the next person. And so the ripple continues. But imagine your friend comes to you and says, I've had the best day. I feel so good. I want to share this with you. These things happen. Isn't it amazing? Look at the world around us. There's so much possibility and creativity. Big smile, joy in the voice, and your spirits are lifted just in one interaction. You've been shifted, and you carry that the next person you speak to. That's why I fundamentally believe in the ripple effect. And for me, that's all about understanding yourself so truly, working on yourself, healing yourself, because that pours out of you into the world. It's not selfish to focus on self-care. It's the most important thing you could do. It's the only thing you can do. You can't help anyone else. You can't make people do things, change their mind. You can only change your mind. You can only change your actions. So there you go. I don't know where that ended up. That was interesting. I hope that didn't become a rant, but there you go. I hope you enjoyed that and you got some sort of value from that. If you did, please like it, please share it, please leave a comment. I love reading your comments. It's just affirming for me to see that the ripple effect is real, you know? Yeah, so thank you. And have a wonderful rest of the day.